Hi everyone, and welcome to our channel. Before we dive into today's emotional and powerful story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. If this story touches your heart, please leave a like and share it with someone who needs a little hope and healing today. Now, get comfortable because this is a story you won't forget. Downtown Seattle glowed golden as twilight fell. In a high-rise apartment near Lake Union, Emily Carter stood by the large window, a glass of wine in hand, her eyes fixed on the shimmering cityscape. The soft light reflected on the glass made her deep blue eyes seem even more distant. She looked like the perfect picture of a successful woman. Soft curls cascading over her shoulders, a slender figure in a silk dress, and a diamond wedding ring glittering on her left hand. But only she knew what was missing from that perfect image. She and Daniel had met when she was a sophomore in college, majoring in finance. He had already been interning at a major construction firm. They first met at a campus startup seminar. Emily, then young and naive, was drawn to his warm smile and quiet confidence. Love didn't come quickly, but it grew deeply, enough that they were willing to gamble their youth on each other. After she graduated and settled into a job, they married in a small but cozy ceremony, surrounded by close friends and supportive families. Life after marriage seemed ideal. An upscale apartment, a brand-new SUV, weekend getaways to the Oregon coast, and cozy evenings over wine and soft jazz. But a year passed. Then, too, Emily still wasn't pregnant. They weren't avoiding it. They were hoping. Each cycle brought anticipation, then disappointment. Eventually, they went to see a doctor. The diagnosis: infertility due to combined factors. Both had mild issues, but together they made natural conception nearly impossible. Emily collapsed in the consultation room. Daniel held her tightly, whispering, "It's okay. We'll be okay. I don't need children to be happy. I just need you." Their first IVF attempt came in the dead of winter, under Seattle's relentless rain. Emily endured daily hormone injections, nausea, pain, exhaustion. The first try failed. They told themselves it was just the beginning. The second try also failed, and she began to fear needles. The third time, her heart shattered when the doctor shook his head. She once cried until she passed out on the bathroom floor. Daniel had carried her to bed, tucked her in, and sat by her side all night. "Emily, please stop," he whispered. "You're killing yourself over this. It's okay not to have children. But you want to be a father? Edo. But not more than I want you to live, to breathe, to smile." His words gave her strength to go on. But deep down, she still felt broken. One early May afternoon, Emily left work early to prepare a special dinner for their 6th wedding anniversary. She stopped at her favorite cafe downstairs to grab a latte. That's when a tall, stylish young woman approached her table, uninvited. Wearing a form-fitting red dress and nude lipstick, she looked poised and confident. "You're Emily Carter, right?" the woman asked. Emily nodded, cautious. "I'm Madison Green. You deserve to know. I'm pregnant with your husband's baby." Emily froze. She couldn't say a word, just stared at the woman, trying to process whether this was some cruel prank. But Madison pressed on, pulling an ultrasound photo from her purse and sliding it across the table. "You can't have kids." "I can. Daniel won't leave you. But I'm not going to stay hidden forever. So either you step aside, or I'll take this public." Emily sat in stunned silence. She couldn't remember how she left the cafe. The ultrasound picture seemed glued to her hand, a sentence she couldn't escape. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just felt empty. Back at the apartment, Daniel wasn't home yet. Emily looked around. The sofa they'd chosen together, the painting she had painted for him, their wedding photo from Montana's mountains. She removed her wedding ring and placed it on the table. Then she began to pack methodically. Every motion was calm, eerily so. Daniel walked in minutes later. "Hey, babe, you're home early?" he called out cheerfully. But there was no answer. He stepped into the bedroom and froze. Her suitcase sat open on the floor. Emily stood with her back to him, hands trembling. "She came to see me," Emily said quietly. "Madison." Daniel went pale. "Emily, it's not what you think." "Then what is it?" She turned around, tears brimming. Did she make it up? And this? She held up the ultrasound. Explain it. Daniel dropped to his knees, clutching her legs. I'm sorry. It was a mistake. I was drunk. I was sad after the last failed cycle. Not at you, just at everything. I didn't mean for it to happen. I don't love her. I don't want her. It was just one night. Emily stepped away from his grip, keeping her distance. I told you, if the day ever came when you didn't choose me, just tell me to my face. I let you go. Daniel broke down in tears, something she hadn't seen since the day they were told children weren't possible. I don't want to go. I love you. You're my wife, my everything. But Emily had made up her mind. She left that night, not because she stopped loving him, but because she loved herself enough to walk away from being someone's second choice. The lights of Seattle shimmered like a miniature galaxy. But inside Sophie's small apartment, the younger sister of Emily, there was only silence. Emily sat curled up in an old armchair, hugging a pillow, her vacant gaze fixed on the wall. The wedding ring that once symbolized a perfect future now lay in a drawer, like the relic of a broken dream. Sophie, sharp and level-headed by nature, was in the kitchen making ginger tea. She hadn't asked anything in the 3 days since Emily moved in. She just stayed close, waiting until her sister was ready to speak. Do you want me to call him a bastard? Sophie asked gently as she set the tea down. Emily didn't answer. Because if you want, I will. Otherwise, I'll stay quiet. But you have to tell me what you need, Emily. Emily sighed deeply. I just need a little time to breathe. Sophie nodded, then sat beside her, placing a hand gently on her sister's shoulder. You really loved him, didn't you? Emily let out a bitter laugh, not out of amusement, but at herself. I used to think there was one thing he'd never do, betray me. That night, Daniel came again. He had come every night for 3 days. Each time, he stood silently outside Sophie's apartment, never knocking, never pushing. Just a shadow hoping Emily would appear just once. This time, Sophie opened the door. You should go home, she said coldly. Please, just let me see her. Just for a minute. To say what? Apologize? Or tell another lie? Daniel didn't respond. His eyes were sunken, clothes wrinkled, stubble growing. He no longer looked like the successful man he once was, but a shell of someone who had lost everything. I just want her to forgive me. Forgive you? Sophie scoffed. Do you know how many times she cried coming home with an empty womb? How many hormone shots she endured until her body was numb? And then you, drunk, weak, gave another woman what she's longed for her entire life. And you think sorry is enough? Daniel bowed his head. He didn't argue. I know, nothing I say can change what I did. But please, just give me a chance to make things right. Behind the door, Emily listened to every word, every tearful gasp. She didn't know when the tears started rolling down her own face. That night, she opened her phone for the first time in days. Dozens of messages from Daniel, each one longer, more desperate than the last. But one message struck her heart. I don't deserve you, but if you want a divorce, I won't fight it. The house, the car, the accounts, they're all in your name. I'll leave everything. I just hope that without me, you can still live comfortably. She read it again and again. Not for the money, but for one line, without me. And she cried, not from regret, but from pain. For the love they once had, a love that had burned like fire but now flickered like the end of a matchstick. The next morning, Emily visited Daniel's parents, the Carters. They had loved her like their own daughter. When she arrived, they embraced her like they feared she might disappear forever. We're devastated, Emily, Mrs. Carter said tearfully. But Daniel, he's not a bad man. He was foolish, weak, and he knows it. But he loves you. He's paying the price. I know, Emily nodded. I never doubted that he loved me. Then can you forgive him? Emily shook her head. I don't know. I'm not sure I can live with someone who reminds me every day of what I went through. Mr. Carter, who had been silent the whole time, finally spoke. Emily, sometimes forgiveness isn't for others. It's for ourselves. But forgiving doesn't mean going back. Do what you need to be at peace. His words were like a key turning in a lock. Emily suddenly understood. She didn't need to stay in the marriage to prove she was noble. Nor did she need to rush into divorce out of vengeance. What she needed was time and peace. 3 days later, Daniel sent over the divorce papers. No message, no pleading, just a handwritten letter tucked inside the envelope. I broke the promise I made to you, Emily. And because of that, I no longer deserve to stand by your side. I'm leaving everything, not for money, but because it's the only thing I can do to make up for what I've done. I don't expect you to come back. I just want you to live well. You were the light of my life, and even without you, I'll always remember that you were the only woman I ever truly loved. Emily folded the letter, her tears soaking into the paper. But this time, the pain was softer. She felt something lift from her chest, like a weight she had carried too long finally slipping away. That evening, Emily stepped out onto the balcony for the first time since leaving their old apartment. The sky was clear, the moonlight spilling across the rooftops. She closed her eyes and whispered into the night, "I forgive you, Daniel, but I'm not going back." A week after receiving Daniel's handwritten letter, Emily began preparing for the divorce proceedings. She was no longer angry or heartbroken, just quiet, in a way that even surprised herself. Every morning, she woke up on time, made coffee for Sophie, cleaned the apartment, and visited her lawyer's office. She was building a new life, one without Daniel, without false hope, and without waiting for someone to change for her. But things weren't as simple as she thought. "You're kidding me?" Sophie gasped, reading the asset list sent by the court. "He's demanding a split?" Emily nodded, her face expressionless. "According to the law, 50-50. House, car, bank accounts, everything. What does he leave you with?" "My freedom." Emily gave a faint smile. It turned out Daniel hadn't kept the promise he made in that emotional letter. Although he had written that he'd leave everything to her, when it came to the official paperwork, his lawyer filed for a division of assets according to Washington state law. Sophie was furious and wanted to call Daniel directly, but Emily stopped her. "There's no need. If this is his choice, I won't fight it. Money can be earned again. Integrity, once lost, is gone." Meanwhile, across town in a West Side apartment, Madison Green sat cross-legged on the sofa. Her baby bump was beginning to show, and she sipped a smoothie while skimming through the asset division documents. 50%? Better than I expected, she smirked, turning to Daniel. Daniel sat in silence. Madison tilted her head, voice laced with mockery. "What? Feeling guilty now? Love letters, tears, promises. And in the end, you signed the divorce like a stranger." "I am tired, Medicine." Daniel stood and walked toward the door. "Oh, so loving me means leaving me to live in a rental?" She shot back. "I'm carrying your child, Daniel. If I hadn't spoken up, how much longer would you have begged that woman to come back?" Daniel clenched his fists. He knew Madison didn't love him. She loved the power that came from having a child. He had made a mistake, one moment of weakness, and now he was paying for it all. But there was no turning back. At the law office, Emily sat across from her attorney, listening to the terms line by line. She didn't cry, didn't protest, just quietly signed her name. "Ms. Carter," the lawyer said, "you have the right to contest this based on your husband's previous written statements. That handwritten letter could be used as evidence of intent." "No need," Emily cut him off. "I won't cling to what someone doesn't want to give." The lawyer looked at her with a glimmer of respect. Not all clients handle betrayal with such grace. Emily stood, thanked him, and walked outside. The sky was gray, a light drizzle falling. She had no umbrella, but didn't rush. Every raindrop felt like it was washing away a weight she'd carried for far too long. Sophie was livid when she found out. "We can't just let this happen. You were the one betrayed, and now you lose your assets too." "I haven't lost anything," Emily said softly. "I still have myself. But why won't you fight?" "Because I don't want to become like them, arguing over every dollar, every chair. If I win back the money, will I sleep better? Or will I just drown myself in bitterness that never ends?" Sophie went silent. She understood now. Her sister wasn't weak. She was strong. Strong enough to walk away from the material fight to preserve her dignity. Emily began a new phase of her life. Living alone, independent, no longer Daniel Carter's wife, no longer the woman pitted for her infertility. She requested a transfer to a smaller office, took on a lighter role, and began carving time for herself. One day, she visited a local orphanage, a place she had donated to years ago. There, she met Lily, a 3-year-old girl with sorrowful brown eyes and messy hair. Lily didn't say much, but when Emily sat beside her, the little girl leaned on her shoulder as if they had known each other forever. In that moment, Emily felt something in her heart begin to heal. That night, she stood in front of her bedroom mirror, holding the finalized divorce decree. Next to it lay Daniel's old handwritten letter, now wrinkled and stained from tears and time. She lit a match and burned it. The words melted into flame. The apologies turned to ash. Emily was no longer the woman who had been betrayed. She was the woman who survived. That summer in Seattle was gentler than most. The rains weren't as relentless, and the air wasn't oppressively hot. Emily felt as though even the weather was trying to soothe her heart. A small gift from life after the storms had passed. After the divorce was finalized, Emily moved into a small apartment near Green Lake. It wasn't as luxurious as her old home, but it was warm and filled with light. She painted the walls herself, hung her own paintings, planted daisies on the balcony, and learned to cook. Not for anyone else, just for herself because she deserved good meals too. She still worked in finance, but transferred to a smaller office, less stress, kinder colleagues. Each evening after work, she walked along the lakeside, watching the sun dip into the water. Little by little, Emily learned to live without carrying the pain of the past. One Saturday, while delivering donated books to the local orphanage as she often did, Emily saw her again. Lily, the little girl with the sad brown eyes and familiar face. "I missed you," Lily whispered as Emily sat down beside her. Emily was surprised. "I missed you too." Lily clung to her arm and wouldn't let go. That simple act caught Emily off guard, but it also softened her heart. She had never truly considered adoption, but Lily made her reconsider. Not because Lily lacked a home, but because Emily herself had a space in her heart that longed to be filled. After many sleepless nights of thought, she submitted her application to adopt Lily. It wasn't an easy process: documents, home inspections, financial checks, psychological evaluations. But Emily didn't give up. She prepared everything: a room for Lily, toys, storybooks, and even a dinner with mac and cheese, the dish Lily once said was her favorite. 1 month later, Emily officially became Lily's mother. That morning, she brought Lily home. The little girl quietly looked around the apartment, wide-eyed and curious. "Do you like it here?" Emily asked softly. Lily nodded. "It smells like you." Emily laughed gently. "Because I live here." Lily looked up at her. "Can I call you Mommy now?" Emily's heart tightened. She knelt down and wrapped her arms around the child. "Yes. From now on, I'm your mommy." Word of Emily adopting a child spread quickly. An old friend texted her congratulations. A colleague cried when she found out. But what surprised Emily the most was this. One afternoon, she saw Daniel waiting for her outside the mall. She hesitated, not because of lingering feelings, but because she didn't want the past to taint the life she was rebuilding. "I'm not here to apologize or explain," Daniel said quietly. "I just wanted to say congratulations." Emily nodded, ready to walk away, but he added, "You look good as a mother." For the first time in months, she looked him in the eye, no longer with anger or hurt, just a quiet sadness. "Thank you. I'm okay now." Daniel didn't press further. He simply watched as she walked away, hand in hand with Lily, the life he had lost, all because of a mistake that couldn't be undone. That night, Lily curled up next to Emily, asking for her usual bedtime story. "Mommy, you won't leave me, right?" Emily stroked her hair. "Never. I was left behind once, and I know how that feels. I'll never let you go through that." Lily nodded, then drifted off into peaceful sleep. Emily stayed by her side, quietly watching her daughter. Tears slipped down her cheeks, not from sorrow this time, but from gratitude. Gratitude that life had given her another chance, not to start over with a man, but to start over with herself, and with a child who deserved all the love in the world. On a bright autumn morning, as the leaves turned golden, Emily brought Lily to her very first day of preschool. She had chosen a small, warm school with a wide grassy yard and a vegetable garden behind classroom. Lily clung tightly to her mother's hand, eyes sparkling with both excitement and fear. "Can I really go to school, Mommy?" Lily whispered, as if afraid this miracle might disappear. Emily knelt down, brushing back Lily's hair. "You've been so brave. Now it's time for you to explore your own little world. And Mommy will be right here, waiting for you to come back." Lily smiled and hugged her. As the little girl walked into class with her tiny backpack, Emily's heart filled with something she hadn't felt in a long time. Joy that had nothing to do with the past, only the present. Meanwhile, Daniel was living quietly in another city. He had moved to Portland, stepping down from his executive position to take a job as a project engineer. Each day, he worked from dawn to dusk. No complaints, no distractions, and no one waiting for him at home. The child Madison gave birth to had been handed over to her parents to raise. She had left Washington, abandoning both the baby and Daniel. He had never imagined that he would end up a father with no child, or worse, a man with nothing left to father at all. One day, during a short business trip back to Seattle, Daniel decided to stop by Green Lake, the place where he once lived with Emily. He didn't intend to see her. He simply walked around the lake, past the familiar benches, the trees they used to sit under, the park corner where she used to read books on lazy weekends. And then, as if fate had written the moment, he saw her. Emily was by the lakeside, playing with Lily. She hadn't noticed him, but Daniel froze. She was laughing, arms outstretched, as Lily ran into her embrace. The scene hit him in the chest like a tidal wave. It was beautiful. It was everything he had lost. He stepped back, ready to turn away, when her voice rang out. "Daniel." He turned. She had seen him all along, her eyes calm, unsurprised, without anger. "How are you?" he asked, voice hoarse. "Better than ever," she replied. They stood in silence for a moment. Lily clung to her mother's side, gazing up curiously at the stranger. "She's Lily," Emily said with a gentle smile. "My daughter." Daniel nodded slowly. I'm really happy for you." Emily looked at him one last time. "I used to think I couldn't start over. But it turns out what feels like the end is often just the beginning." "Have you forgiven me?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "I forgave you a long time ago. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to let go." The wind blew across the lake, sending golden leaves dancing through the air. Daniel didn't respond. He didn't beg, didn't plead. He knew now. The woman before him was no longer the Emily of the past. She was the Emily of today, strong, whole, and radiant. Before leaving, Daniel said quietly, "I never kept my promises to you, but this will be my last. I won't appear in your life again unless you ask me to. You deserve a life without my shadow in it." Emily nodded. "Thank you for keeping this one." Daniel turned and walked away. Emily took Lily's hand, and they kept moving forward. The sun rose higher, shimmering over the lake like diamonds. A new day began, not with sorrow, not with memories, but with a new promise, a promise to herself to live fully, love freely, and never fall again.